All right, we have a new report when it comes to the Bears coaching search. Albert Breer, who's been pretty tapped in with the Bears since Ryan Poles has been the GM. He's got some interesting nuggets and a list of candidates that I want to discuss. And there's some rumors about Ryan Poles and his contract status that are floating out there as well. So we'll dive into that here on Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Before we do so, we are closing in on 112,000 subscribers here on the channel. Your guys' support has been incredible throughout this 10-game losing streak. So if you want to help us reach that threshold, hit that sub button, 145 away, join the family, daily updates on the coaching search. Okay, Albert Breer's notes, three-pronged here. Then we'll have a little Caleb Williams discussion at the end of the show. A little bit of a shift when it comes to the leader of men approach when it comes to what they're looking for in a head coach, which I've said all along, obviously you want a leader of men. He is the head coach. Here is what Breer had to say on that front. Quote, one thing that was emphasized to me over the past week was that if the, quote, leader of men, close quote, wasn't specifically a quarterback's guy, then he'd have to have a very clear and sustainable plan for the quarterback. And what does that tell me? Well, it tells me that they need someone to develop Caleb and ideally have a plan for him to maintain growth and high-level play for years to come. And that should be the number one priority because you spent the number one pick on this guy, and he still has a lot of room to go. Like, he's got a lot of developing to do here. So you got to bring in someone in here. And that's why I've been hesitant with the Vrabels and the Floreses, who I like both. I think they're both good coaches, is because then you got to get the OC hire right. Well, the Bears didn't get that right this offseason with Shane Waldron. Are they going to get it right next time? Of course they could, but you're just adding another variable to the mix. To me, the best plan for long-term sustainability, offensive coach that hits and can develop Caleb Williams, and you can grow that pairing together for the next 10-plus years. That is the ideal scenario. Doesn't mean you can't go Vrabel or you can't go Flores, but based on what Breer is saying here, and I agree with it, you better have a clear plan that makes sense, because if you don't, kind of hard to pull the trigger on hiring that coach. All right, number two, Ryan Poles is running the coaching search based on Albert Breer and based on other rumors that have been out there. Here's what Breer had to say on this. He said, quote, the biggest question that prime candidates have is about the role of team president Kevin Warren, and I think the McCaskey family is aware of that. To that end, Ryan Poles is set up to run point on the search, and I'm told, and this is key, that it's because ownership wants it that way. Warren will have a seat at the table and a major say, of course, but Poles will too, as the McCaskey seek alignment on the football operations side. Well, my initial reaction to that quote is, that does not sound like Ryan Poles is going anywhere. Sounds like he's safe, at least for now, that not only do they want him running the search, being the primary voice, but if that is the case, that means he's probably going to be here beyond this year because he has 1 year left on his contract. Then our good friend Sears Tower, who's been dropping all the scoops, actually deactivated his account, so that throws a curveball into the mix, but put this out there earlier, said, sorry, folks, I was just having fun, because he had tweeted out like a clock emoji. Here's the scoop. Poles is going to be extended. There were other deep rumors on Twitter that he's getting extended as well. And my initial reaction to that is, well, I hope that doesn't cost you Ben Johnson. Now, maybe Ben Johnson's cool with working with Ryan Poles. How would the Bears know that? I'm not really sure because they can't officially talk to Ben Johnson right now. Maybe they've gotten, word from his agent that he's willing to work with Ben. I don't know. But it seems like the Bears' top coach candidate is Ben Johnson. I hope committing to Ryan Poles doesn't cost you him, because I did a full 30-minute video on this over the weekend about how Poles has done some good things, but honestly, the misses outweigh the hits at this point. So I don't think you should keep him if it means costing you your favorite coaching candidate. And if you extend him now, I don't think you're just going to change your mind and fire him if the top guy you want does not want to work with him. So we'll see if an extension gets announced in the coming days. We'll see where that goes. Adam Schefter said a few minutes ago as well that he expects Poles to be there. So certainly seems like there's momentum to keeping him in the franchise. What should the Bears do with Ryan Poles? What say you? Type F for fire him or K for keep him? If you can get Ben Johnson with Poles, I guess that's fine. You keep some continuity, but I tweeted this earlier too. Half measures don't typically work in what I've witnessed in life. Like, you have to be convicted in what you're doing. And it's kind of like when you kept Matty Eberflus and fired Luke Getsy last year. Half measure. Keeping Ryan Poles, I'm not saying you can't have success. Kind of feels like a half measure. So I would fire him. I would align Ben Johnson or whoever with the new GM, but doesn't seem like they're going to go that route. All right, we are sponsored by Prize Picks. More notes from Albert Breer coming up, including the coaching candidates that he's mentioned. But daily fantasy has never been easier than it is with Prize Picks. Get signed up today as Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. The code CLNS gets you a $50 bonus into your account when you play for just $5. And listen, the holidays may be over, but the plays are still here. You can win up to 1,000 times your money. You got basketball, football, hockey, baseball is just around the corner, believe it or not. Soccer, tons of sports available. 2 or more players in your lineups. Pick more, pick less, make money. You can turn $10 into $10,000 on certain lineups right now. Got a little 2-player entry, Baker Mayfield. I like the more on his passing yards. I got George Kittle to find the end zone as well. $50 bonus when you play for just $5. Doesn't matter if you win or lose. That first $5 entry, you're going to get $50 for free. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. We appreciate your support of our sponsors. Helps us grow. Get signed up right now at PrizePicks.com/CLNS. All right, one more from Albert Breer, as he's the latest to drop a list of coaching candidates. Put out a video earlier today based on the names Rappaport has heard. These are 7 names that Breer mentioned. A lot of the usual suspects: Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel, Kliff Kingsbury, Brian Flores. I would say those are the 4 names that have been mentioned the most. He also mentioned Aaron Glenn. Kind of mentioned him and Vrabel together in that kind of hardcore leader of men category. He did mention that Thomas Brown will get a look, that the Bears upper brass has sympathy for the situation they threw him in. Kind of feels like they're going to interview him just as like a courtesy and give him a shake, even though it's probably not a fair shake, for being completely honest. But it does sound like they'll at least go through that process with him. And then Pete Carroll, too. He did say that the age thing is certainly a factor, but that they will likely at least want to talk to him. But I do think the 4 names that could be emerging as like the early top grouping based on the reports out there from different sources. Ben Johnson, who I do think is a clear number 1 for the Bears. Mike Vrabel, Brian Flores, Kliff Kingsbury. Those are the names over the last, I'd say, week to 10 days that we have heard the most, especially Johnson and Vrabel, but Flores and Kliff, I would say, have infiltrated that discussion as well. I wish Liam Cohen was in there, to be honest. I like him more than Kliff. I probably like Joe Brady more than Kliff as well, but the Kliff-Caleb connection is something that exists, so certainly understand it. But for me, it's still Ben Johnson's the top guy. That is the route I would go. Now, name someone you don't want as the next head coach. I would say out of those names mentioned, the 2 I would want the least are Pete Carroll and Aaron Glenn. I think Aaron Glenn's a good coach, but if you're going to go defense, I'd rather go Flores or Vrabel. I don't really want to go defense, but I like those 2 guys more. And if you're not going to go defense, obviously offense is the preferred outcome. So that is kind of how I would look at that. But name someone you don't want as the next head coach down in the comments below. All right, quick news from today. Caleb Williams is going to play in Week 18. Not really sure why this was even asked at the presser today. Thomas Brown confirmed that all healthy players will play against the Packers. An opportunity to finish this year strong. Obviously, it's been a roller coaster. It's been wonky. At times, it's looked good. At times, it looks bad. I'd say, add it all up, it's been very up and down. Or I think roller coaster is fair to say, both for his play, but also just what he's dealt with, right? Offensive coordinator, fired. Head coach, fired. Guy who you made the offensive coordinator promoted to head coach. That's a lot to deal with in your rookie year. It's been a lot to deal with. He also just objectively has been inconsistent. He said to himself in the Amazon pregame interview, he's like, I expected to be more consistent this year. So hopefully he puts his head down, has a good offseason. Hopefully he finishes strong against Green Bay. I'm not one of these people on social media who just thinks this has been an epic disaster and he's not going to be good and all this stuff. I still think he's shown plenty signs of having a promising future, but that's where this coaching hire is so important. And that's why I really, really hope they can get Ben Johnson, because I think he gives Caleb the best chance of sustainable success, both in the short and the long term. It is Packers week, though, and beating the Packers would be pretty sweet, although it's been a disappointing season. Get the FGBs going in the chat. You guys know what to do. You know the motto, FGB for life. It'd be nice to beat those SOBs and keep them at the 7 seed, as the Bears have not beaten Green Bay in 6 freaking years. All right. Speaking of which, we will be live for a Bears-Packers watch party this Sunday, so subscribe and join us for that. We'll, of course, have plenty of content between now and then here on the channel, so hit that subscribe button, and we will talk to you guys soon.